So today we have verses 30, 31, and 32 of chapter 13, Kshetragya Vibhag Yog of the Bhagavad Gita lined up. I'll start with verse number 30. Prakrityeva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashah यः पश्यति तथा आत्मानम् अकर्तारं सः पश्यति. So the verse translates to, he who sees all actions as performed by Prakriti or matter alone, and also the self is actionless, he sees. Let's take this up word by word. Prakriti is matter, so Prakritya becomes by matter or by Prakriti or by matter. Eva alone, cha and karmani is actions. Kriya manani is being performed. Sarvashaha is all, entirely, completely. Yaha, who pashyati sees, tatha so also atmanam, the self by. So here it refers to God, capital S. Akartaram, so karta is one who acts, akartaram is action, one who doesn't act or actionless. Sa he pashyati sees. So the verse translates to, he who sees all actions as performed by Prakriti alone and also the self as actionless, he sees. So let's chant it together. Prakriteva cha karmani क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं सः पश्यति. So the wise one, we are continuing the same line of thought that we just recapped, 27, 28, and 29. And the tone is the same. The wise sees clearly or understands clearly. I mean, so when we talk of seeing, it means understanding and not physical seeing. So the wise understands clearly the roles that are played by Prakriti, matter, and Purusha, spirit. So see that when we look around us and when we see ourselves also, the entire creation is acting. The birds are chirping, we are talking, animals are moving. So once we are born, all of us act. And what are examples of action? Some I just gave you, but even at the level of the mind. So when we think, that is also an action. So that also is, that onus of that thought is on us. So that what it means is that if we have a bad thought, if we think badly about someone, it is our bad thought. That action is mine. So even thoughts, though physically we may not be acting, but even thoughts are actions, and so are emotions. So the entire creation acts. In the entire creation, human beings are the only species that have a choice in the action. And the way we act depends upon our desires and the chronology of action that we had covered in the earlier chapters, chapter 3, 4, and 5. The chronology of action is what? That we have a causal body. There are certain vasanas which are there in each one of us. And those vasanas create those related thoughts which lead to related desires, to related action, and the action now can be good, bad, and indifferent. So for example, my vasana for, let's say, music will give rise to thoughts which pertain to music. And so then I will have desires for either learning music or going for a musical performance. Accordingly, now I will either buy tickets for a performance or I will look for attending classes on music. So that's how the chronology of action works. Good desires will lead to good actions, and bad desires will lead to bad actions. This is all common sense. Now, what we have to understand, this is just a recap of the earlier part, the initial part of the Bhagavad Gita. Here, when we are coming towards the last 6 chapters, the entire, what we have to understand is, where is this action in the Prakriti and spirit? So the entire chronology of action are part of Prakriti, matter. So the verse is saying that all actions, sarvashaha, that's the word being used by everyone. So at all times, everywhere, they are in the realm of matter. So that is the first line of the verse. And in verse 15 of this chapter, I'll just revise it with you, because as we are coming to the close of the chapter, we need to have things settle down with us. So in verse 15, we had discussed that wise person understands the essence, the tattva, and understands the play of vasanas and gunas. And he understands that vasanas and gunas and actions are functioning apart from Purusha and spirit. So the same thing is being said in this verse, the first line. So all actions are performed by gunas of Prakriti, nature. So the gunas belong to matter and not Atman. See, why one is saying this again and again is that we are normally deluded. We, when something terrible happens, we say, oh God, why is this happening to me? But the point is, God is not acting. And somewhere, theory apart, why, when we are internalizing it, we fail to internalize this fact that the action is not in God. God is not affected by action. He is enabling us to act. So the deluded are attached to the function of the gunas. The wise understand that the play of gunas is actually taking place in God. So the wise one is unattached, and hence he is objective. So he understands that God has nothing to do with our actions, whether they are good or bad. God enables us, but God does not act. So same electricity example, that electricity enables all electrical equipment, but no electrical equipment is in the electricity.
First time. Hi Archana, you're not.
I'm just muting Archana. Yeah, just wait. Unfortunately, I muted myself. So okay. So the electricity is enlivening the entire all electrical equipments, but no electrical equipment is in electricity. Same thing with God. God is enlivening us, but none of the action is tainting God. Only the ignorant feel that God is responsible for our actions. Okay. Or God is acting. That's why whenever we say, oh, why me? We should immediately pause and see, why are we saying this? Okay. So that's an internalization problem. Now, coming back to the verse, this I was just recapping what we had covered earlier. So same thing, the wise understands that all the actions are performed by Prakriti alone. So they are being done by the the body, mind, and intellect. Those are the actions that we covered. So the Purusha, or the spirit, is the prime mover, the enabler, but it itself is unaffected. It's the actionless substratum of everything. So that now we come to the akartaram bit. And so the second line, and when we say ya pashyati sa pashyati, as I told you earlier, this is the tone that is often used, that he who sees, he sees. And of course, this is not physical seeing, because you don't see it physically. It is through the eyes of your intellect and your understanding, that once you understand that the God is only the enabler and not the actor, and he is actionless, so then that person understands. So we must understand that the God is enabling the body to act, but God itself is actionless. It enables the mind to emote, but it itself is emotionless. It enables our thoughts, but it itself is thoughtless. So just as electricity by itself has no light, but produces light in a bulb, has no heat, but produces heat in a toaster, has no cold, but produces cold in the air conditioner or in the refrigerator. So nothing in the creation can happen without God, but God has nothing to do with whatever is happening in the creation. He's just the enlivening force, the prime mover, and therefore God is referred to as a kartaram, or the actionless center, right? So let's move on to verse number 31. I will chant. Yada bhut pradak bhavam ekasthamanupashyati tat eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. So verse number 31 translates to, when he perceives, he is human, when one perceives the whole variety of beings as resting in one. One refers to God, and spreading forth from that alone. Then he, or the Jivatma, becomes Brahman. Okay, so let's take this up word by word. Yada, when, Bhoot prathag bhavam. So bhoot is being, prathag is diverse, bhav is expression. So bhoot prathag bhavam becomes the diversified expressions of beings, or the diversified existence of beings. Ekhastham, ek sthit. So this is the union of that. So that means is resting in one. Ekastham becomes resting in one. Anupashyati, perceives, tat, from that, ev, alone, cha, and vistaram. Vistar is to expand or to come out or to explain. That's how we use it in Hindi. So here it means is spreading, or is coming, emanating. Vistaram, so it becomes expanding. Brahm is Brahman, God. Sampadyate becomes tada, then, right? So when he perceives, when the Jivatma perceives the whole variety of beings resting in one and spreading forth from that alone, then the wise one becomes Brahman. This is what the verse says. Let's chant it together. Yada bhuta prathag bhavam ekasthamanupashyati tat eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. So see, now when we look at the creation, you look around you, there are numerous forms of life and existence, from the tiniest amoeba, which you actually can't even see with the naked eye, to the most powerful animals and complex human beings. All of us are rooted in the same reality, the same God. It is the same Purusha spirit which is seated in all the bodies, the Kshetra. And the body consists of Prakriti, or matter. Now, the distinctions between the diverse forms of creation is the result of the manifestation of gunas of matter, and gunas we just did in the previous verse, and action, all action, they are in the realm of matter. So when Purusha enlivens the Prakriti, all these diverse beings, they start manifesting as the three gunas in the beings. So upon birth, the bodies of all creatures are created from Prakriti, and at death, their bodies again merge into Prakriti. Just as the same atoms, we would have studied some basic chemistry, it is the same atoms that constitute physical units of matter, which in turn combine to form infinite forms and substances. The essence is the same, I mean, of matter. So the variety of living beings are all rooted in that same material nature. And it is then that we realize the unity, the unifying principle behind the diversity that we see, or we start understanding the oneness principle that we have been talking of late. And here I would like to recollect that the 18th verse of chapter 9 referred to God as the Bij Avyayam, that means the imperishable seed from which the entire universe emerges. So, and unlike most seeds which only generate one plant, God continues to create the universe infinitely, right? So, all the diversity of names and forms that we see around us are emerging from that Brahman, or they expand from Brahman and create the entire universe. The same Purush, God, is enabling all the creation. And now in verse 18 of this chapter, Lord Krishna had said that Brahman is seated in the hearts of all the beings. So that Supreme God is the core of the personality which is in the heart of all beings, be it a unicellular organism, a plant, a bird, an animal, a rose tree, whatever it is, or a human being. All of them have that Brahman as the common factor. So this is something that we have to internalize. You see, we don't see this. We see a beggar on the street as someone who's different, and a dog, a stray dog is different, a pet dog is different, but actually it is the same Brahman that is enlivening all of us. And the wise one understands this common factor in all beings. Again, the same electricity example, the same 220 volts is enlivening all the entire electrical equipment set, or the vehicles enabling the vehicles. God is the prime mover. And this is the understanding that one arrives at when one starts seeing beyond what is one, uh, physically perceptible. So same, all atoms come from the same, constitute the same different forms and substances. So all variety of living beings are rooted in the same material nature, and we come back to the oneness principle here, right? Same logic. And then we realize that this variety has emerged from Brahman, and when we uh, dissolve or when we die, we will merge back into him. So we come out of a single point and go back into a single point. These two things, what the diversity of names and forms is arising from that Brahman, and they will merge back into Brahman. So these are the necessary and sufficient condition for understanding to be complete of what is being said. That everything comes out of Brahman and will go back into Brahman. Just as, see, you go to sleep in the night and you start dreaming, and you dream that, okay, you are, let's say, in traveling, and you have gone to London, and you come out and suddenly your wallet has been stolen. So now you are without money, no credit card, and you suddenly wake up, hassled. And once you wake up, you realize that it was all a dream. Nothing existed there, right? So on waking up, you realize that all the diverse experiences that you were dreaming of were coming from your mind only. Those were coming out from your mind. They they appeared in the dream. They were there for as long as you were asleep or dreaming. and they came back to you when you woke up. So this is exactly the same situation that we are talking about. So one who understands that the diverse forms and beings come out of Brahman and will go back into Brahman when at the time of dissolution. And actually, that is the time when we have realized ourselves. So we have woken up or we have become God realized. So when we understand God. So such a person understands and realizes the powerful potential of the person himself, herself also. So we are the central axis around which the entire universe is sustained. I have realized the truth. Once I realize this, I have realized the truth. So the wise one understands that the world of plurality is the same self arising, or the world is a play of the divine. And the divine center is me, that God is within me. I have experienced it. This is direct experience. And that is what the verse is saying, that then he attains, then he becomes Brahman. So that is what is being said here. So let's move on to verse number 32. I will chant. Anadetvat nirgunatvat Paramatmayam avyayah Sharirasthopi kaunteya Na karoti na lepyate. So the verse translates to being without beginning, without gunas or qualities, this supreme self, imperishable, though dwelling in the body, O Kaunteya, neither acts nor is tainted. So let's take this up word by word. Anaditvat. So anadi is without beginning, and anaditvat from the grammatical construction becomes being without beginning. Nirguna is without gunas. So nirgunatvat becomes being without gunas or qualities. Paramatma, that supreme self. Ayam, this. Avyayaha is imperishable. Sharirasthya, dwelling in the body or sthit in the sharir. So dwelling in the body. Api, though Kaunteya is name for Arjun, Kuntiputra. So Krishna is addressing Arjun as Kaunteya. Na not, Karoti acts, na not, Lipyate, tainted. Or, the sticks, the action stick, and we'll discuss this. So, being without beginning, without gunas, this supreme self, imperishable, though dwelling in the body, O Kaunteya, neither acts nor is tainted. So let's chant together. Anadetvat nirgunatvat Paramatmam avyayah Sharirasthopi kaunteya na karoti nalipyate. Now, see, what is happening is, I think most of us had a problem following this chapter. This chapter, chapter 13, gives prominence to logic more than any other chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. And, that's why since the beginning, there's so many recaps and we are repeating the same thing. And actually, if you will revise, you will understand that Lord Krishna has clearly explained to us or to Arjun what Arjun had started asking with in verse number 1 of the chapter. So Lord Krishna has very clearly explained to us what is Prakriti, matter, Purush, spirit, Kshetra, field, Kshetragya, knower of the field, Gyan, knowledge, and Geyam, that which ought to be known. So all this has been covered. So theory is completely with us. And we can go back to the verses and see what is being said where, right? But there's certain concepts which need internalization. Okay. And the two most obvious concepts that need greater internalization are, and I will place it before you, and then we can take it up also during the question answer sessions, because we keep asking the same questions in different ways, but they all come under these two categories. That the first one being that if Prakriti is without beginning and Purush is also without beginning, then what is the difference between the two? Right? And you may recollect that when we were discussing the 20th verse of this chapter, that Krishna had said that both Prakriti or matter and Purush and spirit that enlivens matter, both of them are beginningless. Okay. So that is one. That if both of them are, without a beginning, then what is the difference between the two? One concept. Second one is that self is enabling everyone and everything that we see around us. So we keep reading that the self is akarta and does not act and is not affected, but we keep asking, and in our questions, for example, that I just said in one of the previous verses, that why is this happening to me? God, why are you doing this to me? God is not doing. So somewhere the concept is not internalized. So the second concept is, which needs greater internalization, is that does the supreme self get affected by the reactions and actions of the Prakriti, matter? So these are the two concepts which need greater internalization. And to clear these two concepts, this verse, the adjectives that are used in this verse to describe Paramatman again, because we've been discussing Paramatman since chapter 7 now, right? So the two, the adjectives that we are talking about here, actually three of them are coming our way. One he is talking about is Anadi, beginningless. Now, God and God consciousness existed at the beginning of time. And this is the consciousness that enlivens our body, mind, and intellect. It has been doing it for eons, and it will continue to do so for eons. And now when we talk of time, it is, see, the time is the interval between two experiences or two thoughts. So the interval comes into existence from the second thought or the second experience onwards, not in the first thought. So Brahman existed in that first experience before time emerged. And unlike all beings that we see, where we have a beginning and an end, a birth and a death, the self or God is beyond time, is eternal. It's always there. It's an adi. It's like the ocean from which the waves rise, exist for a while, and fall back. So the waves have a beginning and an end or are transient, but the ocean is existing forever. So that is anadi, that is being used as a first word of this verse. Then nirguna. So without gunas or beyond gunas. So God does not have gunas. Gunas, as we have been reading continuously in this chapter, are in the realm of matter. Prakriti, matter manifests itself as the three gunas in the being. The three gunas are tamas, rajas, and sattva. But all these are in the material realm. They're part of Prakriti. And see, if we look around us, the world of name and form, or the world of plurality, is always changing. It is finite. All these things have properties, attributes, gunas, and it is because of these properties that we can perceive them. Okay, so When our sense organs can perceive things, then only it registers in our mind and in our intellect. When there are no properties in an object, we cannot perceive it, and we call it non-existent. And you see, that is interestingly the problem with our knowledge system. We study and analyze only the things that are conditioned in time and have properties. We cannot understand, we cannot comprehend something which does not have gunas, which does not have properties. And now the self being nirgun does not associate itself with any quality whatsoever. That same fuel in vehicles, electricity, electrical equipment, ocean and waves, etc., etc. So now, see, the problem that faces us is that it's like the toaster, which is functioning on electricity, is trying to understand what is electricity. Okay, you're enabled by the same thing which you're trying to understand. So it's going to be difficult, right? So that is the problem that faces us. But we must understand that just as electricity has no light, though it lights a bulb, no heat, though it produces heat in heater, no cold that it produces in cold in a refrigerator. And same thing for God, nothing can happen without God. But God has nothing to do that is happening in the creation. God is free from the quality and property of all that we see around us. Then the last adjective that that is being used in the first line is avayam or imperishable. So the beings constitute of both matter and spirit. So matter and spirit combine to give uh, manifestation, manifest the creation that we see around us. The beings perish or the forms perish, but Atman is imperishable. Like gold, it does not perish when you melt your gold ornaments. So, you go to the jeweler and you say, okay, I want to give away all this jewelry. He melts it. He's not bothered whether you bought an anklet or a earring or anything. He melts it. That's gets the gold back. So gold, that substance from which these various names and forms in the form of anklets and necklaces and earrings came out, all those names and forms have vanished once the jeweler melts it, puts it into his crucible and burns them all. They all melt, gold remains, the essence remains. Same example, ocean from which the waves continue to rise and merge back into. The waves have a beginning and an end, but the ocean exists forever. Now the God is situated in the hearts of all of us. We have, we are perishable. We have a beginning and an end. Anything that is born must die. So God, but God, though situated in the supreme, in the Jivatma, and it enables it, it never identifies with the body. So when we die, the soul is the only thing that remains. It is not affected by the states of existence nor its actions. So God's presence in our material body does not make God material in any way whatsoever. And nor is God subject to the law of karma or to the cycle of birth and death. These are all experienced by the Jivatma. When the Purusha is enabling the body, the material body, and the body is doing the actions based on its vasanas, gunas, etc. So, though God is there in all the beings, it is not affected by the actions. And the word that is used is lipyate, which means tainted. That means conduct of an action. This you may recollect we had done in the Karma Yoga part of a series of chapters 3, 4, and 5, where if you do an action which is not in a spirit of service and sacrifice, it sticks to you. It sticks to you how? More desires are born. Or you aspire for more and more entry into the world. So I have earned 1 crore. Now I want to earn 2 crores. I have become the chief minister of my state. Now I want to become the prime minister of the country and then the prime minister of the world or president of the world, whatever you may call it. Okay. I'm a beauty queen at the college level. I want to become a beauty queen at this state level, then Miss India and then Miss Universe. So all these desires, they will just keep expanding. So they taint us, they stick to us. And what does that mean? That means we keep falling back into the cycle of birth and death. We do not sublimate our desires and our vasanas. So with that, we conclude today's session.